Hey crafty friends, Einat Kessler here with my Graphic 45 2016 audition, and I'm going to create a pop-up book with the amazing Once Upon a Springtime collection. So let's get started. I'm starting with cutting 3 6 by 10 squares from 3 different pattern papers, and just gonna cut them. They're all beautiful double-sided papers, so you can pick whatever papers you like. It's going to be hard though, I'm gonna tell you that. So cut those 3 squares and then fold each one in half. Now we're going to create a pop-up book, so the folds are very important. You need to really burnish the folds very well with your bone folder. Both sides. The better the fold will be, the better the movement will be with the pop-up. Okay, so once you've got those 3 folded, we can start with the pop-up mechanism. So you cut another 6 by 10 square like before and fold it in half as well. And I'm going to show you how to create that beautiful mechanism that when you open the book, everything just pops out of the page. So once you've folded that in half, add another fold line 1 inch from the bottom of the square and fold it as well like this. And every fold, just fold both sides. So once you've got that, you take your scissors and you snip the corner at a 45-degree angle. And this is going to be your mechanism that is going to be inside your pop-up page, aligned with the fold of the page in 45 degrees angle. And this is what's going to hold all the elements that are going to pop out of the page. So close it like this while holding the mechanism, not gluing it down, just holding it. We're going to mark with a pencil the boundaries of the mechanism. That means that everything or anything that is bigger than this, taller than this, is going to pop out outside of the page size. So we don't want that. So anything should be at this size. So now I'm going to create the background. This size is obviously too big for me. So I'm just going to create little bushes with a pencil and cut them with my scissors. Just little round, like green bushes. And then once I have the basic shape, I could go in and cut them a little bit more and make them look more like bushes. And once you've got that, we can go ahead and glue our mechanism. Just put some glue on that flap, one of the flaps. I like to smear it with my little finger because then my other fingers stay completely glue free, and then I can go ahead and do whatever I want with them and everything stays clean. And then only on one flap, and then you glue it down to the paper, aligning it with the fold in the middle, aligning the fold of the mechanism with the fold of the paper. And once that's glued down, you add glue to the other flap. And I recommend using liquid glue. Again, with my little finger. It's very important to reach all the way to the fold with the glue. And then you close the page. And this way, both sides of the mechanism will be glued exactly at the angle that you want. And then if there's a little bit of excess, just trim it. And then you have your mechanism. See how nice that pops up? Look at all those bushes. And this is why the folds are very important, because if you didn't do the folds very well, it will not pop up very well. So I cut here a lot of beautiful pieces from the papers, and there is a lot of fussy cutting in this project because these are the elements that are going to be the background and that are going to pop up from the page, and you would have to cut those elements with your scissors. They're going to create little scenes for us in the book. So I'm adding those pieces, some of them to the background, to my bushes, and some on the page itself. And if you add something to the mechanism, it's better to have, if you want it to reach all the way down to the page, it's better for it to have one side, one straight side like this. Okay, now I'm going to teach you how to create a muscle. A muscle is an extra mechanism that is going to be attached to the primary mechanism and will also make things pop up. So you take one strip of paper and fold it in 4. That means fold it in half and then fold it in half again. And then you glue down one of the little squares to the bottom of the page aligned with the mechanism, and the other one on the mechanism, the other square at the other edge. And then you close this, making sure that it's glued properly. And then you see that little square, when you open the page, it stands up. You can see it on the side here. And then when you put some glue on the front and add something on it, an image or a flower or whatever it is, when you open your page, it will pop up because it's pulled by that large mechanism in the back. See? This is how it looks. And this is how you create your layers of pop-ups. You add those muscles that will also make things pop up. So that was a square. If you want something to be further away from the mechanism, then you create a triangle instead of a square. So once you fold it in half, you need to fold the 2 short sides of the square to make it a rectangle. The rectangle has longer sides, and that is easier. You see? That is easier if you want to have things further away from the mechanism. So we have a square and we have a rectangle. So the rectangle is glued down by putting glue on one long side and putting it down all the way aligned and close, tight to the mechanism, and then another glue on the edge of the little square. And you glue that to the mechanism itself. Always close it and burnish it to make sure it works properly when you open it. And then if you want to add an image like these little bunnies and they don't have a straight bottom, it's a problem. They might not hold properly. So what I'm doing is just with my bone folder creating a fold line, straightening their bottom part. And that little flap is going to be glued also, and this one is going to be attached to the bottom of the page, and then the back side of the image is going to be attached to my rectangle. And then always close. See, this one has little bunny ears popping out of the page, but I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to add some more images. There's a little fairy there that I've added also, and I'm going to create another muscle. This time a square one, and I'm going to add it in front of the first muscle that I created. You see, this is how you create layers. You keep on adding the little muscles in just one after the other in layers, and they're all going to be popping up something, because in the front you're always going to attach an image. Put the glue in the front and then add your image. I'm going to show you how that looks. See? It's starting to get really pretty, and the scene is starting to get some shape. And the strips of the paper are actually kind of small because we don't want the squares to be very big. They're basically about 1/4 or 3/4 of an inch by 2 inches, 2.5 inches. It depends on how far you want your image to be from the mechanism. I'm just cutting them from scraps of paper. So another muscle is added, and I'm going to add another image to the front. And the more layers you add, the better your story will look, because your page is going to look really rich and pretty. See how that looks so far? Great, huh? I want to add another image of flowers in the center, so I need to fold it and align it with the fold on my page. Everything needs to be aligned with the folds that you already made. Otherwise the pop-up would not work. So one side is glued, and then I'm adding glue to the other side. This is just for the background, but needs to be aligned nonetheless. Okay, so I'm going to fill my page with some more images. So what I'm doing now is adding flowers to the front of my page. And what I'm going to do is fold them in half. First I cut the bottom to have a straight bottom, and then I'm cutting them in half, and I'm creating a little mechanism for them to be glued to. And this mechanism is going to be exactly like the large one that we created in the beginning. Because this is not going to be attached with a muscle, it's going to be attached with another small pop-up mechanism, the folded one. So it's exactly the same way, but very small. So you need to fold it in half and then create a fold line on the bottom and create the edge and cut the edge, with a 45 degrees angle. And then you glue your image to that little mechanism, leaving the folds free, like so. And then you put glue on those little flaps. It's the same way we did the large mechanism, and then you add it aligned with the center fold of your page. So the center fold of your image or of your little mechanism is aligned with the center fold of the page, like this. And then you can do whatever size of book that you want and add as many mechanisms and muscles that you want to add to your story. So I'm just adding more pieces that I cut from the beautiful collection, all around fairies and butterflies. This is a really beautiful collection that is filled with fairies and butterflies and little bunnies and flowers, and it's really springy and beautiful. So I'm adding some more images on the back mechanism. And now what I want to do, see how that looks so far? Isn't that pretty? I want to add another image to the front again, so I'm folding it and having another little muscle added to that front image that I've added before. Remember that little mechanism that we did? Now we're adding a muscle to it in the front, and we're adding a little bunny there. And I've just folded the bottom again to create a straight line at the bottom, otherwise it will not hold properly. You can cut it, or I prefer to fold it this way I don't lose any part of the image. It's like a 3D image that part of it is standing and part of it is on the background itself. So this way you don't lose anything of any parts of the image, but you still have a straight bottom that you need. So I'm adding a little title to my page with those stickers. It's going to be springtime, because this is very springy collection, just in time for this spring that we're just about to have. At least where I live, it's already here. And then I'm going to finish the first spread. I'm going to have 3 spreads in my book. So this is the first one, and this is how it looks. Really pretty, right? And it's not too bad that I have little things popping off the sides, because they're going to be hidden by the cover. So that was the first one, and I already gone ahead and made the other 2 exactly the same way as I did the one that I taught you. I made one mechanism to be on the back, and then I've attached muscles to it to make sure that the other images that I add pop up. And then I added lots of embellishments and images to the background. So this one has hills, and the middle one has a little pond, and you can just create whatever images that you want. So these are the strips of paper that were left when we cut the 6 by 10 squares at the beginning. So what I'm doing is I'm taking them, cutting them in half, so I'll have 6 inches by 1 inch strips. We're going to create spacers from these strips, and I'm going to show you what a spacer is. After you cut those strips of paper, just fold them in half lengthwise, and then we're going to create the spacers. The thing is that when you create this book, one side is going to be really bulky and fat, and the other side is going to be very narrow. So we want to balance that by adding spacers to the narrow side, and this way it's going to be more even. So how do we create those spacers? Make sure that all your papers are aligned and that you don't by accident have one upside down. So you take one folded strip, put some glue on it, and glue down another strip inside. They're both folded lengthwise, like I said. And then you add the glue and close them, glue them together like this. And basically what you get is a strip of paper that is kind of thick. And what we're going to do is glue it down to the edge, to the folded edge of your page. So this one goes on the page from the outside, aligned with the fold, like this. This is the fold. Don't glue it where you open the page. And then we can glue the second page to the first page, sandwiching the spacer in between them. So just put glue on all around the edges and on the page itself. And again, I recommend using liquid glue because you need to move it a little bit and tweak it to be perfectly aligned. And when you work with double-sided tape, sometimes it's really hard. And then make sure you're aligning the page perfectly, fold to fold, And this is basically the spacers or the beginning of the binding of this book. So this is how it looks so far. Make sure you burnish it very well and attaching both pages together. And then we're adding another spacer. So we're doing page spacer, page spacer. And this will even the two sides of the book and make them more or less even. So you glue down the spacer on the second page, again aligning it with the fold, and then you're ready to add your third page. Always make sure they're all facing the same direction. You don't want to glue your page and then find out that it's upside down, right? So you add your third page, aligning it perfectly with the other folds in the other pages. See, the spacers have added more bulkiness to the side, but you also need to add more spacers for the cover. So we add one spacer on each side of the book. So this is one side, again aligning it with the folds, and we need to add another spacer for the other side. Now I have two 6 by 8 papers and 6 by 5 1/4 chipboards that are going to be my cover. So I've made two more spacers, and these are going to go on the cover itself, on the chipboard cover, like this. And it doesn't matter, again, it doesn't matter the color of the spacers because they're going to be hidden and they're not going to show, so it doesn't really matter. And then we take our piece of 6 by 8 paper and glue it down to the cover. Now obviously this piece of paper is bigger than the cover because the excess of the paper is going to go on the other side of the book, and this is what's going to bind the cover to the book. So first, make sure to burnish it really well when you glue the paper to the cover. This is going to be the inside of the cover, okay? And you see there's the excess of the paper. Create a fold line with your bone folder and fold the paper. And this flap is going to be glued to the book. So just put some glue on the paper, on the flap there, and then glue it down to the book, again aligning the fold with the other fold, with the spine of the book. And all those spacers that we've inserted will even the book and make it more even on both sides, like I've explained before. And you do the same thing again with the other side of the cover. Create a spacer, glue it down to the cover, and then attach your paper to the cover. Of course, I've used the same papers, but you can use different papers if you want for this, for each side of the cover. So I'm adding the glue on the cover, and then I'm just going to attach my paper, aligning it to all three sides, creating a fold line to fold the flap, and attach that flap to my book. So basically the book is ready. What we need to do now is just embellish the outside of the cover. See? Very nice spine we had, and the book is much more even now. So now I'm going to take a 6 by 12 piece of paper and create the outer cover. Now what we're going to do is start with the front cover, put some glue on it, and then glue down one side of our paper, making sure it's aligned with all three sides of the cover. Once we've done that, we're going to turn over the book and just press the paper against the spine, folding it slightly without gluing it to the spine, just telling the paper where to go, and then put some glue on the other side of the cover and attach the paper. So the spine stays free, there's nothing glued to it. The paper just covers it, but it's not attached to it. We need that part to be free to move. Okay, so this is how it looks. I'm going to show you in a minute. I'm going to burnish that. See? That little bump there on the paper, we want that. Just cut the excess off. And this makes the book free to move without any problem. Now I have a 12 by 4 1/4 square here of paper that I'm going to attach to the front of the book. This is going to be the front cover. So I've measured where I want it to fold, which is on the 5.5 line. So I'm going to fold that, and then I'm going to fold the rest of the paper, that little flap that is at the end. Just going to create a straight fold line with my bone folder, just making sure that it's the right measurements, and then I'm going to fold it. It's going to look like an envelope because we're going to create another pop-up mechanism on the front of our book. This is the right way, and this will go here. So let's put the book on the side and create our mechanism here. So this one is going to be the same idea, but here what we're going to do is create only muscles. So I've already gone ahead and created the first muscle. I did it the same way, a square, and then I've attached this image to it. And I've done it the same way. Folded a strip of paper in half and then in half again, creating a square that I've attached to the bottom part of my page and the standing part of my page. Now I'm going to create another muscle for this image, folding the strip in half and in half again. You don't need to measure the strips of paper, just remember how far from the edge or from the other image you want the image to be. And then this one is kind of wide, and then just make sure that once you glue it down, the strip doesn't show from the sides, so you make it narrow enough for the image to hide it. So this one is about 1/4 inch. So I'm adding the strip the same way as I did all the others. You already know how to create the muscle, right? And then I'm attaching my image to the front of the square. Always important to smear your glue, spread it all around up to the fold. And then attach the image. See? And then I'm going to create another muscle, smaller one this time because I don't want it to be too far away. And only the important thing about the muscles that you need to remember is that you always have to glue it to another muscle, because if it would stand on its own, it's not going to do anything. It needs the power of the opening and closing of the other muscles to move, while the first muscle is attached to the page itself, and the opening action, this is what moves it. Okay, so I have my third image here. This is how it looks. Now I can add the other flowers and fairies that I cut all around the background. Again, a lot of fussy cutting in this project, which I really like. I don't mind sitting and fussy cutting for hours. Don't care. And I'm just going to add the title of the book, which is going to be Spring Pop-Up Book. Gonna bring some letters from another sticker sheet because I don't have enough here. The other sticker sheet is also by Graphic 45, don't worry, and makes the title a little bit more interesting. Not uniform in color. Okay, so the inside is finished, and now we're going to create the outside. What I'm going to do is bring a little piece of black cardstock and glue down some stickers from the sticker sheet on it and cut around it. This way it will be with a little black frame around it. And then I can do whatever I want with it because I've glued it to paper, so it doesn't glue to anything else. Okay, so this one's going to go here, and it's going to be the closure of the little pop-up envelope on the cover. So just put a little bit of glue on the bottom part of this image just to glue it down to the little flap on the bottom. Now I'm adding some, again, flowers that I cut. A lot of cutting, and I need something to close it with, so I have a little magnet here that I'm going to attach with some double-sided tape. The first magnet is going to go on the inside, the back side of the black image or the black paper. It's going to go on the top there. And the way to make sure that both magnets meet is simply by adding the other magnet on top of the first one, adding a piece of glue, double-sided glue. That flew away. Sometimes it's a little hard to take the backing off. Okay, and then you close it, and then it finds its way exactly to the place that you want, and since you put the glue on the back, it glues down. Sometimes it's a little difficult because those magnets are really very strong, so they tend to stick together instead of to the paper, but you have your little piece of glue there, so you know exactly where the magnet's supposed to go. Now, in order for this to work, you need to cover the magnet with a piece of paper. That creates that little barrier that the magnets need to be able to separate from each other when you want to open it. So now I've covered it with some flowers that I cut, and then it closes, and I have no problem opening it. See? Because the magnet is under the paper, the flower paper. So now I can add a few more fairies that I cut and flowers, and have a really pretty front cover, adding some flowers by Prima, and then this whole thing is going to go on our front cover of the book. Make sure not to add the flowers on the opening so you'll be able to open it properly. So this whole thing is going to go on the cover. Just put some glue on the back side and attach it to the front cover, and basically you're done. You have your own pop-up book. Isn't that great? I think this project was really fun. I've done 3 pages. You can do so many more if you want to. Don't forget to use spacers to even your book. So this is the front cover, and let's go over all the pages that we did. So this is the first one, the springtime page with all the bunnies. The second one is the pond adventure. We have a little pond and fairies that sail on little shell boats. And then we have our third page, which is bunny fun with all the little bunnies in the meadow. So I really hope you like this project. I had a lot of fun making it. I hope you'll make one too. And wish me luck. And I hope the next time we talk, I'll be a part of the Graphic 45 2016 design team. Thanks for watching.